Hi, look what came in the mail today from Ireland. These are some rackets that I ordered a while back and it finally came in. In today's video, I'll share with you a short review and how to string it up. All right, let's go inside. All right, so we're gonna start out here on the court, and this mysterious racket is made by Functional Tennis. And my friend Fabio mentioned that although it was back ordered for a while, that it was shipping out, and I was impressed that it got here from Ireland to Hawaii in 5 days. So for those of you that have ordered this racket, I'm sure if you haven't gotten it already, you'll get it soon. So this racket comes in a nice felt bag, and I'll go ahead and take it out. But I also have the wooden pointer to just kind of show you how it evolved. So this is the some of you have seen this before, and it's a training tool that you can use to really maybe keep your eye on the ball as you're hitting. So if I'm lining these two rackets up at the bottom, you can see how the sweet spot is right in the middle of this Saber. Oh, did I mention it's called a Saber Racquet? So they're right there. And it has some pretty cool graphics on it, some matte finish. And I'll give you more specs later, but just to give you a reference, it's 37 square inches, and that's the sweet spot area. So later on, after I do some hitting here, I'm gonna actually cut these strings out and string it up just to see what it's like. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with some volleys. Now, I never hit with this racket yet, so I kind of wanted to make it real. I don't know if I'm gonna start missing balls, but I did go ahead and warm up with a regular size racket just to get some warm-ups in. So I'll do some volleys, some ground strokes and some serves, and then give you my initial feedback on it. All right, so we'll start with some volleys. Not too bad, I hit the first one. All right, feels pretty comfortable. All right, we're gonna go with some back forehands here. It's that one right there. Oh, I missed it down. All right, right there, I missed it down too. Did a better job on my backhand side. Let me just hit a couple solid ones. Oh, no, right there. Here we go. Yeah, you really got to keep your eye on the ball. All right, so we're going to do some ground strokes. All right, we're going to try a few ground strokes. Down pretty solid. Oh, that one launched a little bit. Yeah, let me try and see if I can get more topspin on it. Yeah, you can actually get quite a bit of topspin if you hit it square, and you can see if I can drive it. Yeah, that's a nice one. All right, we're gonna do some backhands. Shank that one. The shaft is a little odd. It's very narrow, so to have it in my left hand, it feels a little skinny. All right, backhand's not bad. See how it acts on the slice. Hit that one. Oh yeah, that's a nice one. All right, we're gonna hit some serves with it. All right, so on the serves, I'm gonna challenge myself. I get 3 tries to get flat, a slice, and a topspin serve. And just enough, I got 10 balls on this racket. All right, here we go. Wow, that was a really bad miss hit. Oh, bad toss. Here we go. All right, that was it. All right, I'm gonna go to a slice serve. I get 3 tries. Try and get this one out wide. Got it right on the line. All right, here we go. Topspin serve. I'll go down the tee on this one. Wow, that was down the baseline. All right, here we go. All right, under pressure, here we go. Last try. Oh, that's a bad toss. Here we go. Yeah, right there, got it. All right, so I'm gonna give you my final thoughts on this review. I'm gonna cut out the strings and restring this racket. All right, let's go inside. All right, so before we get into the actual stringing of the Saber Racquet, I did want to share a backstory on how it was created. So some of you might have seen this on previous videos that I've done. It's called a wooden spoon, or at least that's what most people know it as. If you go on Amazon and you do a search, you'll see a lot of knockoffs of the original all wooden racket called a tennis pointer, and it's made in the Czech Republic. So this was created as a training aid to do three things. One, to be able to find the sweet spot. So it helped players understand the proper contact point and making sure that you hit the sweet spot. The second thing is to improve footwork. So in order to hit the sweet spot, you need to be able to move your feet accordingly to get in the right position. Therefore making players understand that they need to move their feet. The third area was to consistently get your ball toss in the right area or right location so that you can make consistent contact and develop a more consistent technique. So Function of Tennis is the distributor of this the tennis pointer, and the owner, Fabio Mole, decided in 2019 to make a training aid that would be even more fun and exciting for players to use. So he came up with this idea of having creating a racket that would have that's an actual racket that would have strings where you could hit the ball like a regular racket. Then by January of 2021, Fabio found a racket engineer, and R&D started creating various prototypes. After months of tweaking and testing, by December of 2021, the final samples came in. Then production started soon after in January, and by April, the official unveiling and pre-sale of the Saber Racquet began. Now we're in June, and the racket is currently being shipped to customers all around the world. All right, next let's get into the racket spec. So I have the racket that was pre-strung. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the strings, and it looks like a synthetic string, so I am gonna replace it with the same, with a similar kind of string. I think a poly string would be kind of overkill, especially since you want a racket that's gonna be a little bit livelier than having that kind of harsh feel of a polyester string. So I'm just gonna leave one strand of string here so I can actually measure the gauge. Before I cut it, I actually couldn't test it on my RDC to see what the string bed deflection was. I couldn't do it even on my Racket tune app because of the small head size, and my ERT 700 is actually broken, so I can't use that either. So I did use a string meter, and I came up with about 26 to 24 on that. So I'm gonna go ahead and string it up at 24 pounds, I think. So let's go ahead and just compare the actual specs. It says it's 300 grams, so just go ahead and weigh it and see where it's at. And it's right at 303. Okay, the swing weight, it's 270. And this is without strings, and we'll go ahead and check what this one is at. It's at 277, a little bit higher. Now it didn't say what the stiffness was, so this would be interesting. I hope this racket doesn't break, but I'll go ahead and do the string bed deflection. Now it doesn't have a throat. I mean, the throat is up here, so yeah, I'll go ahead and just hold this here just in case, but let's just see what this string bed, racket stiffness comes out to. Okay, great, it didn't break. 69, that's pretty high, that's pretty stiff. Let's see, other specs is it's a 12 by 12 string pattern, and it's a 22 millimeter straight beam design. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a measurement of what the string gauge is, and I'm gonna just go with something similar that was on there. So again, it does feel like a synthetic string, and it's coming in at 1.27 millimeters. So yeah, I'll go with a 17 gauge on this restringing, and I'm gonna just go with my go-to strings, which is a Prince Lightning Pro 17 gauge. Another cool thing about this racket, when it first came, it actually had the hang tag on it, and it came like this, and this is actually a stencil, so that's gonna be cool. So I'm gonna use the silver colored strings and go with a blue stencil, so really match the racket after it's done. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and mount the racket. And oh, before we mount it, I did want to show you what I did. So I've never used my badminton adapters before. So what that is that the tennis one, the post is shorter. So I mean the arm is shorter. So what I did is I put both badminton adapter on, but I couldn't get these to come in close enough to mount the racket at 12 and 6. I guess the Saber Racquet is a little smaller than most badminton rackets. So what I did is I have the badminton one at the head, and I have the tennis one in the throat area. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do to mount this racket, make a modification. So I'm gonna bring my racket over, and I'm gonna go ahead and place the 12 o'clock at its normal position, but at 6 it's going to be in the throat area. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and just secure the racket using the outer arms, and then I'm going to bring this in at the throat so it's snug there, and then do the 12 o'clock last. And it's pretty secure, so I think this will be all right for this racket, and I'm going to string it at 24 pounds, so should be all right there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and measure the amount of strings off of a set of strings, since I don't have a reel, and I will be using one of the techniques that I did in a previous video where I measure off the strings exactly what I need based on the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and run the first main from hole to hole to the tension head as 1, and then I need to count off 5 more because there's 6 on each side. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then basically I'm just gonna double it over until the ends meet each other. So at this point I'm gonna go ahead and let go of the rest of the set down there and just run my fingers until I reach the end of that first side that I measured, and just cut it off there. So, but I'm curious how much feet this is, so for future reference that might be helpful just to measure it off. So there's about 10 feet 6 inches. So if this length works out okay in the end, this would be a good reference for you just to measure it off without having to even use the frame. There was no stringing instructions that came with this racket, so this would be a good reference if you need something to learn how to string this racket. So, all right. Now this is the first time I'm using these badminton clamps, so it's kind of fun making use of these adapters and the clamp. So I'm gonna go ahead and string. I usually like to do 2 at a time. Well, I do 2 on the first side and then 4 on the next, and 4 and 4 until it's done. So basically I'm just gonna go 2 main strings over the previous tension side until I reach the outer main. It'll be interesting to see what the reading is on the string meter after I'm done stringing this at 24, because this will be a good reference to see if maybe 24 is, well, we'll see if it matches up to the same reading I was getting when I was taking the initial reading. And the original strings that were on here, it was strung one piece. So that means the crosses had to be installed from bottom to top because it wasn't an around the world pattern. So I was debating if I should go around the world in this, but I figured just go do the 2-piece. Part of the reason too is that the holes on this racket is actually designed for a 2-piece, because on the bottom there are large tie-off. There's 2 large tie-off holes, and that's enough for the 2 mains and the last cross. So yeah, I would recommend just going 2-piece on this based on that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and finish this side and then tie off. All right, so we're on the last main coming down. There's just enough string, not using the Diablo to tension that string, so that was a good length actually. So again, that was 10 feet 6 inches. I'll go ahead and list it under the descriptions below, so you can refer to that if you forget. So we'll finish off the other side. Yeah, the original, well, I don't know what the original prototype was, but the one that was right before this had a different string pattern. It was actually a 12 by 14. And there were some shared holes in that too. So on this model though, it's 12 by 12 like I mentioned earlier, but it's also, there's no shared holes, which is nice to have, especially since everything is in a small confined space. So it's nice that every string has its own hole. All right, so I'm gonna use that whatever was left here on the set of strings to measure the crosses. But again, I use the frame since this is the first time I'm stringing this racket, just to see what kind of length we're dealing with. So I'll just run the run it from the 2 holes on the first cross, and then just make sure I have enough length for the to tension it. And then, so this is number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'll just double it up because it looks symmetrical enough where I can just trust that this is gonna work out. And so that's enough length for the 2 halves of the crosses. And again, since there's 12, yeah, that works out. All right, so let's measure what this is. And this is 3, 6, wow, it's only 9 feet. All right, I hope this works. I was anticipating it being 10 feet, but yeah, we'll see what this comes out if I gotta do the crosses all over again. All right, so I ran the second cross and I'm coming back to the first cross to reduce any kind of friction. I also did another video on that. I'll provide the link in my video description below. All right, so I'm just gonna run this over here, make sure I have enough length to reach the tension head, and then start on the first cross. Yeah, this feels like it'll be cutting it kind of close. Well, we'll find out when we reach the end, I guess. Yeah, for sure when we reach the bottom, I'm not going to be using the Diablo for tensioning. After I tension this next cross, then I'll take off that starting clamp. Everything is such a small space. All right, so we're gonna just go ahead and weave the remaining crosses. Yeah, if any of you have a machine that, if you do string the Saber racket and you can use your badminton adapters to string the racket, leave a comment below. I'm kind of curious if it's just my machine that can't string this racket, or if it's other machines that will have the same issue. All right, we're reaching the point where I can't even use the Diablo, so, and then I might have to stop stringing the one ahead because I cut it so close. All right, so I'll go ahead and weave my last one ahead, and I think I might have to just tension, weave and tension each time. Yeah, this is not gonna reach. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it looks like I'll make it, but it's just gonna be cutting it close. So I think after we finish, I'll yeah, make sure that 9 feet is not gonna be the next time. The next time I do it, it's not gonna be 9 feet. Just to give yourself a little bit more, make it easier to work with. All right, because I got 3 more crosses and I have enough string, but I might have to use a bridge. All right, yeah, so I'm gonna just have to weave and tension. Last one here, and yeah, I'm gonna have to use a bridge. All right, so based on how much is here left over, yeah, going 10 feet I think would be safe on both. Well, we went 10 feet 6 on the first one, and I didn't have to use a bridge. So yeah, 10 feet 6 and then 10. Or if you want to just use a half a set, then you can get by with 10 and 10, because remember the 10-foot 6 was without the bridge. So if you don't mind using the bridge, then you can just use a true half set of string if you're dealing with a set versus a reel. curious what that string meter reading is going to come out. All right, so I'll take this off and we'll do a string meter reading. All right, so I went ahead and stenciled the racket with that blue color like I mentioned, so you can see how that came out. So that's kind of nice. It matches the color of the frame. And so I'll do the string meter reading. And when I did the test on the previous strings that came from the factory, it was about 25 average. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the 4 center mains, and looks like we're coming in at 20, so it's about 5 pounds lower. And so if you want to restring the racket and match what was on there, probably 30 is a better tension. But I actually don't mind that the tension is lower now, because I'd like to see how this plays. I think it'll actually help that it's because it's such a small face, to give it a little bit more rebound. Overall, it's a very solid racket, and it actually feels like a racket. You can even spin the ball, but when I was trying to spin it, I was mishitting it. So I think I need a little bit more practice with this. But this is one of the advantages of using this over the tennis pointer, because I could never really spin the ball with that. Every time you tried to hit up on the ball or down on the slice, it would just slide off the wood. So that was something that I couldn't really do with the tennis pointer. The other thing is if you have tennis elbow or arm issues, then hitting with the tennis pointer off center was pretty jarring for your arm. So you couldn't really play with that over an extended period of time. Whereas this, you could actually play a set. In fact, I wouldn't mind trying to play a set. It's just that I would wish my opponent would have the same racket. But I did like the serves. I was happy that I met the challenge and I got my serves in. But check out Stan Wawrinka on the website. He did a play test on it, and he's hitting like a normal ground stroke when he's hitting with it. Here's a quick update. I reached out to Fabio to ask him about the string tension and how to string it up. So he sent me this video message, so you can take a look.
Hey Albert, how's it going? Excuse the noise and the facial appearance and the tiredness. I just got back in from London at like nearly 2:30 AM last night. It's quite early here. So thank you very much. Excited you got the Saber, sorry. String tension is in pounds. Between 25 and 30 is what we recommend. I think 30 is a good tension. People have strung them at 35, but I think 30 is a good tension. And you can play up or down from there. You can choose yourself what the next one needs to be. So that's 1. 2, you can string it in, you can split the string. It doesn't have to be all one. So it's up to you what way you want to do that. Sorry, I'm just watching a kid here. You can decide what way you want to do that. So that's totally up to you. And yeah, so you can string it whatever way you like. So 1 piece or 2 piece. And that's it. Any other questions, let me know. But I'm excited to see the video. Bye.
So if you'd like to check out the Saber Racket, use the link that I provided below in the description of this video. As an affiliate of Functional Tennis, if you decide to purchase the Saber Racket, I'll be receiving a small commission, which will help support this channel. Thanks for watching, happy stringing, and let your strings play.